Imagine being dragged through the bustling streets of ancient Rome, the sun blazing overhead as jeering crowds form a human corridor around you. Not for the glory of battle, not for saving lives or even for treachery, but for crimes so trivial they would make you rethink everything you thought you knew about ancient justice. In this episode of 15 Boring History for Sleep, we're diving into the most bizarre punishments from ancient Rome, where missing a deadline, being rude to a patron, or even simply cutting down someone else's vine could lead to consequences more brutal than any gladiator's fight. The first case comes from an edict by Emperor Augustus. If you were caught sleeping on your post as a guard, your punishment would be exiled to an island. Sounds mild? That island was the tiny bay of Naples rock called Ventatine, imprisonment in paradise with no option to return. The comforting thought of palm trees masks the stark reality of isolation and despair. The psychological torture here wasn't a whipping or branding. It was endless monotony. Then there was the curfew law that required all Roman citizens to extinguish their household lamps at sunset. Those caught with a still-lit flame faced public flogging. Politicians insisted this was to conserve fuel. But everyone knew the real goal was control. Imagine having your neighbors identify your lamp and report you. Then you're dragged out at dawn to receive your punishment. Your crime? A leftover ember in the evening. Next up, the punishments for insulting someone of higher social rank. Even a careless insult could lead to a ritual humiliation. Forced to wear a sign around your neck describing your offense during the morning forum proceedings. The insult itself might be petty, but the forum's cacophonous laughter could echo for days. You'd be a public spectacle, shamed more thoroughly than any beating could accomplish. Perhaps most surprising was the punishment for voting in the wrong district. Romans loved their civic identity. Turning up to vote in the wrong part of the city was considered electoral theft. You'd be subject to a strip and shave ritual, your head and beard publicly removed, then paraded through the neighborhood like a scrubbed clean chicken. The symbolic message? Your face was no longer worthy of your vote. Even the seemingly benign act of whistling at someone's wife could bring consequences. A law known as the lex alia sentia punished men who crossed that line with expulsion from public baths for an entire year. Baths were central to Roman social life. No gossip, no business deals, no morning exercise with friends. You became a social pariah at the whim of someone's offended spouse. Imagine, too, if you borrowed a neighbor's cloak and returned it slightly damp from dew, you could be accused of property damage. The punishment? You had to spend a night squatting in the marketplace stalls, wearing nothing but your nightshirt. While traders spoke of your offense, you sat there all night, exposed, vulnerable, and uncomfortable, to teach you respect for even minor property rights. One particularly cruel measure involved a minor theft offense. Imagine snatching fruit from a roadside stall. If the stall owner was a freedman, a former slave with limited rights, your punishment wasn't prison, it was being tied to the donkey that pulled their cart and forced to walk behind it while carrying the stolen fruit. Barefoot and humiliated, until the stolen value was repaid in sweat and scorn. An unexpected law concerned loud noises after dark. Any public disturbance, even a drunken shout, could result in immediate beating and the offender's tunic being thrown off to chill through the night. Imagine stepping out of a party, shouting a toast, and suddenly being yanked into silence while the toga leaves your body frozen for all to see. Citizens would also face bizarre consequences for spitting on the street. The praetor urbanus insisted on public cleaning duties as symbolic expiation. You would be forced to kneel and scrub the area you spit on, with water and straw bundled against your hands, in front of jeering passers-by. Every wrinkle in your tunic and every harsh word from the crowd brought the message: respect public order or kneel before it. But here's where Rome's legal theater took a sinister twist. Magistrates sometimes put offenders in stocks made to resemble mythological figures. Each plank painted both to humiliate and to demonstrate that the offender had become a cartoonish tragic hero. One unfortunate citizen accused of jaywalking near the Senate was pinned as if he were Marsyas, the satyr flayed for challenging Apollo. Rome turned even its most trivial punishments into dramatic performance art. One of the most infamous punishments involved a senatorial decree that forbade bathing on the hottest days of summer, too indulgent. They said, anyone caught cooling off in the Tiber River would have their clothes cut off and be paraded on a wooden raft downriver. Spectators along the banks laughed, pointed, and tossed rotten fruit. The punishment didn't stop dehydration. People sometimes lost their clothes and dignity but survived. Yet the shame lasted far longer. Finally, let's talk about a law that seems torn from a comedy. If you were caught insulting a priest of Vesta, your tongue would be weighed against a coin. If the tongue was heavier than the coin, they justified it as ample proof of blasphemy and fined you the equivalent of 2 owls, small silver coins, plus the cost of your tongue's restitution. The logic made no sense, and maybe that was the point. The absurdity amplified the humiliation. These aren't tales from the wild fringes of empire. They were standard consequences for everyday misdeeds. The average Roman might think twice before whistling at a senator's wife or borrowing a cloak without checking the weather. The combination of public performance, physical discomfort, and psychological shame meant that even a harmless action could cost you a night in stocks or the eternal memory of a humiliating procession. As we close this first chapter of bizarre ancient punishments, think about your own life. Could a stray whistle or a late lamp light cost you more than you bargained for, in public shame, financial fine, or social exile? Ancient Rome didn't just punish, it turned justice into theater, control into spectacle. Up next, we'll dive into medieval Europe's even stranger rituals, where knights faced trials by ordeal and witches endured ordeal by water. Curious? Stay tuned, and don't let your lamp burn brightly in the wrong district. Visual guide suggestion. Scene opens with guards leading a man across a stone plaza, dust swirling. Torches dim. Quick flashes of each punishment. A man exiled to a rocky island. Lamp lighting and flogging. Shaved voter paraded. Stock punishments painted like myth figures. Final shot. Narrator's voiceover against a darkened Roman forum at twilight. A single lamp flickers. Let me know if you'd like tweaks for a short, 90s, or extended, 5 to 10 minutes, version including more vivid visual directions. Step out of Rome, just a bit, into the outer provinces, where punishment didn't just follow the law, but bent itself to local customs twisted by Roman oversight. Here, cruelty became creativity. And boredom? That was a luxury few criminals had. In the province of Gaul, Roman officials often let local tribal justice run its course. One of the most bizarre punishments reported in early records involves the use of bees. Yes, bees. Thieves caught stealing food or tools during the harvest season could be tied to a stake surrounded by honey and left at the edge of a wildflower field. The punishment wasn't meant to kill, but to sting, repeatedly, humiliatingly, and for hours. The villagers watched, laughed, or simply continued working. The symbolic lesson? Steal the harvest, and the harvest will punish you. Roman soldiers stationed in Egypt adopted a more psychological approach. A legionnaire caught forging leave documents wasn't whipped or jailed. Instead, he was assigned to latrine duty in silence for 30 days. No speech allowed. No eye contact. Only the stink of failure. Fellow soldiers were encouraged to mock him. But he could not respond. Not a word. Not a gesture. One wrong move and the punishment restarted. Some men reportedly went mad before the month was over. Now picture this. A senator's wife attends a lavish banquet and gossips about a Vestal virgin, accusing her of impurity. Even if it was only rumor, the punishment was dramatic. The accuser would be dressed in the same robes as the Vestal order, blindfolded, and forced to walk the temple's perimeter barefoot in silence, under the judgmental gazes of the Roman elite. Not a scratch on her, yet the shame clung tighter than any bruise. Another oddity comes from Roman Spain. In one village, the penalty for overcharging travelers in taverns was not a fine or closure, but forced generosity. The guilty tavern owner had to serve free food and wine to every passerby for 2 full days, standing by the door and personally apologizing to each one. By the end of it, they'd be broke and humbled. Imagine the punishment today. Scam a tourist once. And you cater a street party for a weekend. Let's swing back to the capital for one of the most underreported customs: punishment by theater. In the Colosseum, criminals weren't just thrown to lions, they were cast as villains in staged morality plays. A man who assaulted a woman might be forced to act out the role of a traitor in a reenacted battle. Destined to die on stage. Stabbed repeatedly, not by actors, but by real soldiers using dulled blades. The wounds were not fatal, but certainly painful. A second show? Unlikely. A minor noble caught lying about land ownership could be sentenced to the scroll parade. He'd be draped in legal scrolls of his own false claims, pinned like a costume, then led on horseback backwards through the town square, while a herald read out the line, "He who lies about land shall lose the ground under his name." Symbolic? Yes. Humiliating? Absolutely. And worse, the scrolls were burned afterward, along with his reputation. How about false testimony? A liar in court wasn't just fined, they had to face the echo trial. For 7 days, the liar was shadowed by an actor hired by the state, who followed them everywhere, repeating everything they said 1 second later. Every joke, every greeting, every whisper, mirrored in mockery. It was psychological erosion, designed to fracture ego and isolate the offender without ever laying a finger on them. Another gem. The crime of ritual disrespect during religious ceremonies. Say a citizen yawns during a sacred procession. A guard could pluck him from the crowd and sentence him to carry incense stones under his armpits for an hour. The stones were hot, just enough to burn but not blister. And the offender had to smile the entire time. The goal was endurance of discomfort while appearing joyful, a poetic reflection of Roman piety. Punishments extended to architecture. 2. A builder who cut corners and caused structural failure might be sentenced to live under the very arch or beam he constructed. If it collapsed again, he'd die with it. It was the law. Your life, your weight, your work. A brutal kind of quality control. And then there were the whisper prisons. Tiny underground chambers beneath Roman bathhouses where gossipers and spies were thrown. Just 2 feet of headspace. No standing room. They were called *oriculi*, little ears. The name alone was a warning. Rome is always listening. Prisoners were forced to sit in silence. The air damp with steam and mold. Some confessions came not from torture, but from sheer claustrophobic madness. Perhaps the most ridiculous of all punishments, the feather gauntlet. A prankster noble humiliated a visiting envoy with a fake invitation to a non-existent party. The emperor, furious at the insult, sentenced the prankster to walk from his villa to the Senate wrapped in bird feathers and olive oil. He slipped, slid, and stumbled for miles. Children followed, tossing flower petals at him like a parody of a returning general. His crime? Mockery. His sentence? Becoming one. The absurdity of these punishments wasn't accidental. It was the point. Pain fades, but shame lingers. In Rome, punishment was a mirror. It showed the people what they should never become, by turning offenders into spectacles too grotesque to forget. As this second chapter ends, ask yourself, what's worse, bleeding a little, or being remembered forever as the man who slipped his way through Rome in feathers? In the ancient world, public image was everything, and Rome knew exactly how to destroy it. Visual guide suggestions. Start with dark honey dripping onto a bound thief as bees buzz closer. Cut to a silent soldier scrubbing latrines with shadows of mocking voices. Flash of scroll wrapped noble on a backwards horse. Final wide shot. The feather gauntlet, absurd. Tragic. Theatrical. Let me know when you're ready for part 3. Let's descend into the dark, muggy alleys of ancient Roman punishment reserved not for citizens, but for slaves. Here, the idea of justice became something more grotesque, twisted, theatrical, and sometimes designed purely for the entertainment of the elite. If you thought bizarre punishments were saved for criminals and rebels, think again. Rome believed in total control, and for slaves, punishment wasn't about correction, it was about power. Imagine a slave breaking a ceramic amphora in a senator's home. Today, That's an accident. In Rome, that could earn you the crater circle. The slave would be placed inside a ring of broken pottery, barefoot, and forced to walk in circles under watch for an entire day. The jagged edges sliced their feet. But slowly, guards monitored the walk, making sure no disobedience interrupted the ritualized bleeding. The floor was often sanded, turning pink with the pain of each lap. Another notorious punishment, the dinner of silence. If a slave spoke without permission during a banquet, they'd be strapped to the underside of the triclinium, yes, the dining couch, while the meal resumed above them. Wine dripped onto them, food crumbs fell. Laughter roared overhead as the slave lay still in the cramped, suffocating dark, literally beneath the table in every sense. Hours of stillness, if they moved. The punishment reset. The lesson was clear. Speak out of turn, and you become furniture. And yet, cruelty didn't always come in the form of pain. Some punishments were psychological cages. A slave accused of eavesdropping or spreading gossip might be sentenced to the dog's mask, a leather muzzle in the shape of a snarling dog's head. Worn for an entire week. The mask smelled of sweat and rotting leather. The slave couldn't eat normally, couldn't speak clearly, and everyone they passed laughed or pointed. It didn't matter if the accusation was true. The punishment rewrote the person's identity into that of a beast. Slaves who failed to wake their masters at the correct hour were sometimes sentenced to sleep deprivation. Known as the owl's vigil, they'd be chained upright in the atrium with a bell tied to their wrist. If they dozed and the bell rang, they'd be lashed all night, for several nights. Roman insomnia weaponized against the lowest rung of society. And all because someone overslept. But perhaps the most unsettling punishment was reserved for asterisk groups of slaves. If a single slave murdered their master, or was even suspected, all the slaves in the household could be executed. This is no exaggeration. In 61 CE, after the death of a Roman prefect named Pedanius Secundus, all 400 of his slaves were condemned to death, even though most had no knowledge of the crime. Citizens protested. The Senate stood firm. The message? If you are a slave, you are guilty by association. It wasn't justice. It was terror doctrine. Let's turn to the invisible punishments. The ones that left no marks but altered lives permanently. A female slave caught flirting with a guest might be sentenced to the waxen veil *. Her hair dipped in molten beeswax and shaped into a stiff mask around her face. It hardened, restricting facial expression and breathing. She had to serve guests with it on for 2 days. Dehumanized. Her femininity punished as threat rather than charm. For disobedience among child slaves. There was a punishment so absurd it borders on farce, the bell tunic. The slave was dressed in a loose robe covered in tiny bronze bells and forced to walk up and down the household hall for hours. Any sound was punished with a tap from a cane. Silence was impossible. The bells rang with every breath. The irony? The punishment punished them for existing. The cruelty went even further underground, literally. Wealthy Roman households often had small subterranean cells called ergastula *, essentially personal slave prisons. A slave sent there for disobedience might spend weeks in pitch blackness, cramped between stone and iron, with only stale bread and water. They were allowed out only when the master deemed them mentally corrected. Some never came back. Theatrical punishment wasn't just for Roman arenas, it was baked into everyday slave discipline. One merchant in Pompeii was famous for training a parrot to repeat the offenses of his slaves aloud. Julia dropped the bowl. Marcus forgot the figs. When the bird repeated it in front of guests, the offenders had to kneel and beg forgiveness. A trained parrot became a petty tyrant. Guests were amused. The slaves were humiliated by a bird. And sometimes, Rome punished through performance. A slave who interrupted a recitation or theater piece during a noble gathering might be ordered to reenact the offense. They'd be forced to wear a ridiculous costume, perhaps a goat or a donkey, then bray their apology in front of the same audience. Every misstep exaggerated, every phrase mocked. The punishment wasn't for the crime. It was for daring to be noticed. Even language itself became a tool of domination. Slaves from far-off regions were punished for speaking their native tongue, ordered to wear plaques with phrases like, "I forget my homeland for Rome." Others had to carry wooden tablets inscribed with their new Roman names, stripped of their heritage. Names forcibly erased. Identity theft, in its most literal sense. To Rome, these weren't just punishments. They were declarations. You are not equal. You are not human. You are property. And if property disobeys, it must be bent until it forgets what freedom ever felt like. This chapter isn't easy to sit through, but it's real. And it demands that we remember. The power of the Roman elite wasn't just in their armies or laws. It was in their imagination asterisk. An imagination that turned even minor infractions into lifelong nightmares for the voiceless. Visual guide suggestions. Scene opens with a cracked amphora falling to the floor, cut to bleeding feet in a circle of shards. Parrot squawking, Marcus forgot the figs. Wide shot of a slave standing silently in the dark. Underground. Final shot. The dog mask. Shown in profile. Silent and breathing heavily. When you're ready for part 4, I'll take us from the homes of Roman elites into the battlefield, where even victory came with punishments stranger than defeat. The Roman battlefield was not just a place of blood and glory, it was also a theater of discipline. Victory was expected, obedience was non-negotiable, and failure? Failure was a sin paid not only in blood, but in humiliation, ritual, and punishment so bizarre that even modern military codes would shudder. Let's begin with decimation asterisk, the punishment you've probably heard of, but rarely in its full horror. When a Roman legion or unit was found guilty of cowardice, desertion, or rebellion, commanders might call for decimatio, the killing of every 10th man. But here's the twist, it wasn't the officers who executed the punishment. It was their own brothers in arms. Soldiers were divided into groups of 10. One drew the short straw. The other 9 beat him to death. With fists, with clubs, sometimes with bare hands. No clean kill, no sword, just brutality, shared and sanctioned. It was discipline by guilt. Each survivor scarred twice, once by fear, and again by friendship turned to violence. But Rome didn't stop at killing. Sometimes it preferred symbolic annihilation. A commander returning in disgrace might not be executed. Instead, he'd be made to wear women's clothing during his court-martial. His sword replaced by a spindle. The message? You failed not as a soldier, but as a man. Rome weaponized gender as much as it did steel. One general in the late Republic, accused of hesitating in battle, was forced to lead a triumphal procession, backwards. He walked in reverse the entire length of the Via Sacra while the crowd jeered. A victory parade for cowardice. And then there were punishments that seemed less like military discipline, and more like dark comedy. A centurion who beat his troops too harshly might be sentenced to the asterisk march of straw. He'd be dressed in a tunic stuffed with straw, feathers, and kitchen scraps, and made to march in front of his legion while they pelted him with olives and spoiled figs. It was slapstick shame, but it worked. The troops laughed, the centurion endured, and discipline was ironically restored through ridicule. Soldiers caught stealing from civilians during campaign were often marked, literally. Branded with a hot iron in the shape of a clasped hand, fides, meaning trust, but the mark was burned on asterisk the tongue. The message? You swore loyalty and lied. It made speaking painful for weeks. And in some cases, permanent. Imagine an army where silence isn't golden, it's enforced by seared flesh. On the front lines, creative punishments didn't just deter disobedience, they also replaced traditional morale tactics. During long, drawn-out sieges, commanders would stage mock funerals for anyone who deserted. The deserter wasn't dead, yet, but a full funeral would be held anyway. Complete with a coffin, eulogies, and a statue in the likeness of the accused. Then, in front of the troops, the deserter would be forced to lie in the coffin, while the statue was ceremonially burned. The message: your legacy is ash, even if your body still breathes. Afterwards, the soldier was often reassigned to latrine work or isolation duty. Or worse, made camp herald. Forced to announce the meals and orders for everyone else with a voice stripped of respect. One of the most chilling punishments was the carry of the cross. Long before crucifixion became a symbol of martyrdom, Roman soldiers could be sentenced to carry a full wooden cross across 3 miles of rocky terrain for sleeping on duty or abandoning post. It was painful, humiliating, and designed to make the soldier look like a criminal in the eyes of the people he was meant to protect. No nails, no blood, just the slow death of dignity. Disobedient archers might find themselves in a punishment nicknamed the blind volley. Blindfolded, handed dull arrows, and ordered to shoot at imaginary enemies. Their form was judged, their aim ridiculed, and if they struck anything, or anyone, by mistake, the punishment restarted. For hours, under the sun, the archers learned fast: never miss your mark, or you'll be mocked without ever seeing the arrows fly. One of the most dramatic battlefield punishments took place in the form of swordless combat. A soldier found guilty of unnecessary cruelty, killing prisoners, harming civilians, could be stripped of weapons and ordered to fight in the next engagement with only a wooden stick. Survival was unlikely, but if he lived, he'd be reinstated, with honors. Rome's way of saying, atone with your life, or die proving you never deserved it. In some legions, especially those far from the Senate's eye, punishments became ritualized hazing. The testudo humiliation saw the offending soldier placed in the center of a tortoise formation, surrounded by his comrades' shields, then forced to march blindfolded through mud while the others shouted his name and crime in rhythmic chants. Gaius slept. Gaius fled. Gaius is no son of Mars. The formation was both protection and prison. The soldier's shame echoed with every step. And what about betrayal? If a soldier was found collaborating with the enemy, the punishment could be poetic and horrifying. In one known instance, a Roman was discovered giving information to a barbarian tribe. He was captured, painted in the enemy's tribal symbols, and forced to stand in the camp square while his comrades spat at him. Then, they built a wooden effigy of Rome, and burned it with him inside. Rome didn't just destroy traitors. It erased their very right to belong. There were strange light punishments, too. For losing a helmet in battle, a soldier might be given a helmet-shaped loaf of bread to wear for a day. For breaking formation, he might be made to walk in a perfect square for hours, guided by drummers, turning a tactical failure into an absurd dance. These were jokes with teeth, easy to laugh at, but hard to forget. The battlefield made Rome's punishments raw and intimate, not just public, personal. Every sentence carried not just pain, but a message, a metaphor, an imprint meant to last far longer than bruises. And always, the punishment had to be seen. Rome didn't care if you suffered in silence. It wanted your shame to echo down the line, from legion to legion, until fear did the disciplining for them. Visual guide suggestions. Dramatic shot. Group of soldiers drawing lots, one gasps. Helpless soldier walking backwards in parade. Crowds jeering. Fiery silhouette of traitor burning inside wooden effigy of Rome. Final shot. The march of the helmet of bread, soldier. Eyes low. Comrades laughing. Let me know when you're ready for part 5. Next, we dive into religious punishments where blasphemy and politics became indistinguishable. Rome didn't just punish bodies. It punished souls. In a city where the gods watched every action, where omens guided emperors and lightning could stop a Senate meeting, committing sacrilege wasn't just a religious offense, it was treason. And the punishments? They weren't designed to correct. They were designed to erase. Let's start with Vestals the virgin priestesses of Vesta, goddess of the hearth. Their chastity was more than symbolic, it was a matter of national security. A Vestal who broke her vow of celibacy was not flogged. She was buried alive. Yes, the punishment was to be entombed beneath the earth in a sealed chamber with only a small amount of bread, water, and oil, just enough to allow Rome to say, "We didn't kill her, the gods did." The burial was ceremonial, witnessed by the highest priests and magistrates. The city fell silent. No bird sang. Even Rome held its breath when a Vestal went under. And what of the man involved with the Vestal? He wasn't buried. He was beaten to death in public, his body dragged through the forum. One fell into darkness, the other into pieces. Sacred duty in Rome was absolute, and betrayal of the gods was a fate worse than death. Even minor offenses against the divine were punished with flair. Accidentally profaning a temple, spitting, stepping over the threshold with your left foot, sneezing at the wrong time, could earn you tongue piercing. The offender's tongue was punctured with a bronze needle, symbolically sealing them from ever offending the gods again. It wasn't fatal, but it made eating, speaking, and praying difficult, a constant reminder. Watch your mouth when you're near the divine. In 213 BCE, during the height of the Second Punic War, a series of unexplainable omens struck Rome, cattle giving birth to snakes, statues weeping blood. The Senate blamed it on secret religious misconduct. In response, two Greek philosophers teaching un-Roman ideas were forced to drink bull's blood, a reversal of the famous hemlock of Socrates. But bull's blood, unlike poison, coagulates. It causes choking, vomiting, and sometimes suffocation. It wasn't just death, it was a message. Foreign gods and foreign thinkers choke on Roman soil. Then came the living curse tablets. If someone was suspected of invoking spirits or cursing others with magic, they could be subjected to reversal punishment. The accused was buried up to the neck in ash and forced to recite prayers backward while people read their own curse tablets aloud. If they hesitated, they were lashed. If they finished, they were branded with the words defixus, bound, to show that Rome had turned their magic back onto themselves. Blasphemy could even taint an entire family line. A senator who brought a pig into a sacred grove as a joke had his family exiled. His name struck from public records. Statues of his ancestors defaced. And worst of all, his children were barred from public office for 3 generations. That's the Roman equivalent of deleting your bloodline from the hard drive of history. But it didn't stop there. The priests who oversaw Roman religious life, the pontifices had their own brutal code. One pontifex, found guilty of accepting a bribe to delay a sacred festival, was stripped naked, painted blue, the color of falsehood, and paraded through the city while being stoned with dates. Not rocks. Dates. Sticky, soft, and humiliating. It wasn't about injury, it was about absurdity. A divine comedy performed at the expense of a corrupted priest. Temples were sacred ground, and stealing from one wasn't just theft, it was defilement. Thieves were often tied to the altar they desecrated, smeared in honey, and left for insects under the hot Roman sun. Public spectators were invited to witness the gods reclaim what is theirs. It was theology through torture. Priests themselves weren't immune. The Flamen Dialis, the high priest of Jupiter, lived under dozens of bizarre taboos. He couldn't touch metal, see a dead body, or even ride a horse. Breaking any rule, no matter how small, led to ritual seclusion 30 days locked inside the temple with no human contact except through veiled servants. If he screamed, the sentence restarted. If he spoke, the temple was ritually cleansed. Isolation wasn't punishment, it was purification with pain. Children could be punished for religious error. 2. One festival. A group of boys mocked the sacred chants of a procession. Their punishment? Their tongues were dyed with soot and vinegar for 7 days. They weren't allowed to wash. They couldn't eat comfortably. The taste of blasphemy literally burned in their mouths until the gods were satisfied. Even dreams weren't safe. If a citizen claimed to have a prophetic dream and it failed to come true, they were paraded through the streets with a donkey skull around their neck. The idea? You were no oracle. Just a braying fool. People threw vegetables at them, rotten ones. Rotten dreams. Rotten hopes. And for those caught faking miracles? One man claimed to have seen the spirit of Romulus guiding the future of Rome. When pressed, he produced a glowing stone, claiming it was a divine message. The Senate investigated. It was wax, not stone, with a torch inside. His punishment? Poetic. He was boiled in wax. Religion in Rome wasn't about faith, it was about order. The gods weren't kind, they were demanding, moody, and easily insulted. Appeasing them required blood. precision, silence, and when the line was crossed. Punishment wasn't just severe, it was divinely cruel. Visual guide suggestions. Gloomy shot of a Vestal walking slowly toward her burial site. Silent crowd watching. Priest covered in blue paint. Stumbling through crowds as dates are thrown. Overhead view of a thief tied to an altar. Bees swarming. Final image. The man inside the wax. Screaming as it bubbles around him. When you're ready for part 6, we'll uncover the punishments inside the Roman family asterisk, where betrayal wasn't always between enemies, but between blood. Roman justice didn't end at the battlefield or the temple. Sometimes, the most terrifying punishments came not from the state, but from inside the home. The Roman family, familia asterisk, was more than a social unit. It was a political machine, a religious microcosm, and a legal battlefield. And at the top stood the pater familias asterisk, the father, who held the power of life and death over everyone under his roof. Let's begin with a horror hidden behind silk curtains, the right of execution. A Roman father could legally kill his child, his wife, even his slaves, if he judged them guilty of dishonor. No trial, no jury, just a nod. In one recorded case, a senator's son was caught plotting to overthrow a magistrate. Before any court could be summoned, the father personally beheaded his own son asterisk in the atrium, in front of the family shrine. His reasoning? Better I spill his blood than Rome's. The Senate applauded. His wife fainted. But it wasn't always swift or clean. A disobedient daughter could be punished through a ceremony called the silent meal. For 30 days, she would eat every meal alone, seated backward on a stool, in total silence. No conversation, no eye contact. If she spoke, the clock restarted. It was psychological exile, living inside the home, but treated as already dead. Wives, though protected by dowries and alliances, were not safe either. If a woman was caught drinking wine, a social taboo linked to moral looseness, her husband could divorce her on the spot. In early Rome, there are cases where such wives were clubbed to death with the household keys. Symbolic? Yes. The keys represented trust and access. Once violated, they became instruments of punishment. Let's not forget the slaves. In wealthy Roman households, punishments ranged from bizarre to grotesque. A slave who broke a dish could be force-fed the shards in front of the household. Another punishment was turning into furniture. A disobedient slave would be ordered to stand in place, arms raised as if holding a tray, for hours, sometimes days. No speaking, no food. If they collapsed, the master might order them to be branded with the word fugitivus, runaway, even if they'd never fled. In one noble home, a slave who dropped a senator's wine goblet during a feast was crucified in the garden not just to punish him, but to entertain guests who had gathered the next day. There was laughter. There was applause. The next slave served wine with hands that shook. Sons who gambled, failed in school, or showed cowardice could be sentenced to the wall of the unfilial. Their names were written in charcoal on the family's courtyard wall, followed by their offense, until the name was scrubbed clean by a priest or earned forgiveness. They were not allowed to participate in meals, inherit wealth, or even speak the family name in public. Some names stayed on those walls until the father died. Now consider this. Rome didn't have domestic violence laws as we understand them today. But it had a strange loophole. If a child, wife, or slave cried too loudly during punishment, and the neighbors heard, the paterfamilias could be investigated, not for cruelty, but for disrupting the peace. That led to a chilling innovation, the whisper room. A padded chamber, deep in the house, where punishments could be carried out in silence. Out of sound, out of sight, out of mercy. What about infidelity? A wife caught in the act could be killed by her father on the spot. But if her husband walked in, Roman law said he must first call 2 witnesses before exacting revenge, or else he could be prosecuted. So what did husbands do? They carried daggers and 2 neighbors at all times, just in case love turned lethal. One of the strangest punishments for wives was hair burning. If a woman was caught cursing or using charms to manipulate her Her hair would be shaved off, then burned in a family ritual while she watched. The flames were said to carry the spell away. But the real message? You no longer hold power, even over your own image. Even pets weren't spared. If a household dog was found eating sacrificial food or licking a dead body, considered ritually unclean, it could be publicly stoned by children of the house as a moral lesson. In some cases, the dog's corpse was dressed in children's clothes and buried like a human, to show that it had died like one of them. Twisted, symbolic, purely Roman. And yet, there were punishments that weren't violent, but just as cruel. The year of shame was a sentence sometimes given to sons who embarrassed their family name, especially in politics. They were forced to wear black wool, attend no festivals, and answer only in proverbs. No laughter, no eye contact, no opinions. For 365 days, they became shadows, living reminders of family failure. Rome didn't need dungeons in every case. Sometimes, the home was enough. Behind those grand marble walls and columns lay a system of justice more intimate, and more terrifying, than any courtroom. The punishments weren't designed to destroy you. They were designed to make you destroy yourself, slowly. Visual guide suggestions. Dim candlelight over a father placing his son's head on a block. A silent daughter eating alone in the corner. Eyes hollow. A branded slave holding a silver tray with bleeding hands. Final shot. The wall of the unfilial son. His name dark and fading in the rain. Next up in part 7. The entertainment punishments *, when death became sport. And punishment turned into public spectacle. Punishment in ancient Rome didn't always hide in back rooms or behind temple walls. Sometimes, it was paraded in full daylight, sharpened, amplified, and turned into * entertainment. For Romans, cruelty wasn't just a deterrent. It was a * show. The theater of pain was built into their very architecture, from the arenas to the execution hills. Start with the * Colosseum, the jewel of Roman bloodsport. While most know it for gladiator fights, many forget it was also a place of elaborate * capital punishment. These weren't just executions, they were productions. A man who impersonated a god, he'd be cast as * Icarus *, strapped to wooden wings, hoisted high into the air, and dropped to his death as the crowd roared, mocking the myth. Another condemned criminal might be forced to play Orpheus, serenading caged beasts with a lyre, until the gate was opened. And the audience devoured the performer. This punishment form had a name, * damnatio ad bestias, *, condemnation to the beasts. Often reserved for Christians, traitors, and slaves who killed their masters. The victim would be thrown into the arena unarmed, sometimes even naked. Lions, leopards, bears, imported from across the empire, were kept hungry for days. Spectators could bet on how many seconds the victim would last. Roman children watched while eating bread soaked in honey. The screams were background music to applause. But not all arena punishments were this quick. In some cases, condemned men were tied to a stake and * slowly dismembered * by wild animals trained to maim rather than kill. A bear would be trained to tear off an arm. A lion might be taught to go for the thigh. The crowd cheered each time the criminal remained conscious. One especially perverse form of public punishment was the * criminal play, *. A series of real-life criminals were forced to act out tragic plays, with real consequences. In the role of * Prometheus, a thief was chained to a rock and had his liver pecked out by vultures. Night after night, they'd repeat the scene, reviving the actor with vinegar and hot pokers until he truly died. The audience, drunk on wine and cruelty, demanded encores. And what about * mock naval battles? Known as * naumachie, these flooded stadium spectacles weren't just for show. Sometimes, they used actual prisoners, sentenced to death, who would fight each other on floating platforms until only one ship remained. No survivors. Victory meant a slower death later. But it didn't mean freedom. As one writer said, Rome never wastes good blood, only delays the spill. Let's not ignore the smaller, More personal public humiliations. Criminals could be sentenced to the parade of shame, stripped, painted in animal patterns, and forced to walk the city holding signs describing their crime. Adulterers wore donkey masks. Thieves carried empty purses made of bronze. The city laughed. Sometimes, even family members joined in the mocking. It wasn't correction. It was social execution. There was also a grotesque variant called the marriage punishment, A man guilty of repeated crimes might be forced to marry a prostitute or a corpse, publicly. The idea was not literal matrimony, but symbolic defilement. The wedding ceremony would proceed, complete with priests, garlands, and musicians. Then the bride was taken away, and the groom was whipped in his wedding robes. For traitors, especially failed conspirators, Rome reserved a fate worse than death, the posthumous execution. After a traitor was killed or committed suicide, the body could still be sentenced. It would be dug up, dragged through the streets, mutilated, and thrown into the Tiber River. In one case, a senator's body was burned, his ashes put into a pigskin, and launched into the sea so that not even the earth could claim his memory. One form of collective punishment was especially chilling. The decimation, When a Roman legion was deemed cowardly or mutinous, every 10th man was executed, by his own fellow soldiers. Names were drawn by lot. The condemned were clubbed or stoned to death by their comrades. It wasn't just punishment, it was engineered paranoia. Who do you trust when your brother may kill you to save himself? The Roman obsession with spectacle meant even execution tools became props. The crux simplex, a simple wooden stake used for impalement, was often sharpened into decorative shapes. One particularly sadistic governor ordered it carved into a laurel tree the symbol of victory, then impaled 50 rebels on it. A cruel joke. Rome wins. Again. And then there's the clown's crucifixion, This was used for thieves or soldiers who mocked authority. They were dressed as jesters, forced to perform tricks, then crucified in a twisted mimicry of a stage show. Sometimes the audience was unaware until it was too late, that what they were laughing at was real. The laughter slowly died as the victim did. In Rome, the line between theater and execution was paper thin. The amphitheater wasn't just a place to watch, it was a place to participate in the moral theater of punishment. Justice wasn't blind. It wore makeup, held a dagger, and played to the crowd. Visual guide suggestions. A wide angle of the Colosseum crowd rising as a lion enters. Close-up of a condemned man in Icarus wings. Tears in his eyes. Mock wedding procession with a man in robes beside a veiled corpse. Final image. Ashes blowing over the sea from a pigskin urn. Up next in Part 8. When Roman torture became law, and pain became a tool of truth. Welcome to the legal system of agony. Roman justice didn't stop at the moment of arrest. In fact, for many, that was just the beginning. The empire didn't just punish the guilty, it tortured them into confession. The assumption wasn't innocent until proven guilty. In many cases, the assumption was, if you're accused, you must be hiding something, and pain will uncover the truth. Welcome to the dark heart of Roman law. Torture as testimony. The Roman word was quaestio a judicial investigation that often meant one thing: sanctioned. Methodical, state-sponsored pain, and this wasn't done in a dark cell behind closed doors. It was often done in the forum, in public, under the gaze of gods and senators alike. Let's start with the victims. Slaves, Roman courts did not accept the testimony of a slave unless it was extracted under torture. Why? Because they believed slaves would lie to protect their masters, or themselves. So even if a slave witnessed a murder, they couldn't simply speak, they had to scream it under duress. Common tools included the scorpion whip thin leather embedded with bone and bronze hooks. The equuleus, or little horse, was a wooden frame where the victim was stretched by ropes until joints dislocated. If that wasn't enough, the torturer would use heated tongs to pull off fingernails, one by one. One case describes a slave woman who claimed her mistress had been poisoned by her husband. The court didn't ask for details, they ordered immediate torture. After 8 hours, she changed her story. The mistress poisoned herself. When asked why she lied, the girl wept. I said what you wanted when you stopped pulling. But it wasn't just slaves. Citizens could be tortured too if the crime was severe enough. In treason cases, even senators could be subjected to torture before execution. The Emperor Tiberius once ordered a nobleman, tested, on the spiked chair a bronze seat with heated nails embedded throughout the surface. He sat there, roasting, for 3 hours before confessing to funding a rebellion. The confession was later proven false. It didn't matter. The chair was satisfied. Another infamous tool. The craticula or iron grill. The accused would be tied face down over burning coals, with gaps in the grate carefully spaced to burn but not kill. Questioning would pause every few minutes so the victim didn't pass out. Then resume. Let's talk about family liability. Under the law of coemptio scalaris, if one member of a household was under suspicion of sacrilege or conspiracy, the entire household could be detained and tortured for questioning. Fathers were whipped in front of sons. Wives held down while their daughters screamed. In one case, a family of 12 was tortured for 10 days straight. No one confessed. All were executed. Perhaps the most surreal example is the mirror interrogation. Used by Nero's prosecutors. The accused would be placed in a room of polished metal, walls, floor, ceiling, all reflecting their contorted body during torture. The idea was to see oneself confess. It was psychological warfare layered over physical torment. Sometimes, pain wasn't used to extract the truth, but to prove it. If someone swore they were innocent, they might be asked to plunge their hand into boiling oil. If the wounds healed quickly, the gods had vindicated them. If infection set in, guilty. This wasn't superstition. This was law. And if you tried to resist torture by biting your tongue, knocking yourself unconscious, or holding your breath, Rome had contingencies. Mouths were pried open with metal wedges. Eyes were propped with sticks. In one chilling record, a man who tried to die by swallowing his tongue was revived and tortured again. This time with his arms broken first, to prevent movement. There were even specialists the tortores. Men trained in anatomy and cruelty. They knew how to hurt without killing, how to cut just deep enough. They kept oils to delay infection, salves to close wounds, only so they could reopen them the next day. One torturer was reportedly so skilled, he could make a man believe his own heartbeat was a confession. That man confessed to killing a magistrate. He hadn't. The real killer was executed a year later. No apology. No reversal. This was justice. Roman style. Fear now. Peace later. And while many confessed just to end the pain, others died not confessing, and became local martyrs. The state was unmoved. The message remained. Truth has a price, and Rome always collects. Visual guide suggestions. Slow motion of the equuleus stretching a man until bones crack. A flickering candle beside a spiked iron chair. A slave girl's mouth held open as iron tongs approach her tongue. Final image. The mirror room. With a bruised man screaming into endless reflections. Coming next in part 9. When punishment followed you beyond death, Roman curses. Damnatio memoriae. And the brutal art of erasing souls. What if death wasn't the end of your punishment? In Rome, it often wasn't. To the ancient Romans, true punishment meant more than breaking the body, it meant erasing the soul. If you disgraced the state, betrayed an emperor, or crossed a moral boundary too sacred to forgive, Rome wouldn't just kill you. It would wipe you from existence. No grave, no name, no memory, as if you'd never lived. Welcome to Damnatio Memoriae the condemnation of memory. This wasn't metaphorical. It was state policy. A sentence more terrifying than death itself. Because in a culture where honor, legacy, and family name were everything, being forgotten was the ultimate curse. Imagine this. You are a senator who defied an emperor. You're executed, your family stripped of wealth. But then the real punishment begins. Crews of workers are dispatched to chisel your name off every monument. Your statues are smashed, your portraits burned, your coins melted down, your birth records are destroyed. Historians are told to rewrite events as if you were never there. Even your face is erased, carefully carved off public frescoes, leaving blank, ghostly silhouettes. Perhaps the most famous victim? Emperor Geta brother of Caracalla. After a brief co-rule, Caracalla murdered Geta in their mother's arms, literally, and ordered damnatio memoriae Statues of Geta were decapitated. Inscriptions had his name ground out. Even family portraits were altered. His figure scraped away or replaced by a vase or curtain. Within months, Rome had rewritten its own history. Geta had never been emperor. He had never been born. But it didn't stop there. Rome had another tool of soul destruction. The curse tablet, or defixio. These were lead sheets etched with damning words, often folded, pierced with nails, and buried in graves or thrown into sacred wells. They weren't just personal vendettas, they were legal warfare from the underworld. Some curses were poetic. May his limbs rot, his tongue swell, and his soul wander blind through the fields of ash. Others were specific. Let Marcus, son of Livia, suffer hemorrhoids, lose his business, and be spurned by every woman until his death. And then came posthumous justice. If the state found out after your death that you were guilty of a crime, it could still sentence your corpse to punishment. Graves were opened, bodies dragged through streets, ashes were thrown into the Tiber or scattered in alleys. In one case, a woman's remains were burned, and the smoke was forced into a sealed chamber so her spirit would suffocate again. Rome believed that the afterlife could be reached through shame. Destroy a man's memory, and his soul has nowhere to return. It was like a spiritual execution, a second death. And families suffered too. In intergenerational damnation, the children of traitors were denied burial rites, often renamed by force, and prevented from holding office. Imagine growing up and seeing your father's face scratched off every wall. Imagine knowing you were legally forbidden from saying his name aloud. But even statues weren't safe. Rome had a habit of recycling punishment. A statue of an executed general might have its head removed and replaced with that of a new emperor. The body stayed, the identity didn't. Marble could be repurposed, the man beneath it, forgotten. This wasn't just practicality, it was symbolic. You are replaceable. History moves on without you. One famous case tells of a Roman artist who defied the emperor Domitian. He was executed, and all his works were destroyed, except one mosaic, hidden under another floor. Years later, it was found. The image? A dog defecating on a bust of the emperor. The artist had cursed Domitian in stone. When discovered, the floor was dug up, broken, and reburied. Even the hidden insult couldn't survive damnatio memoriae. And yet, some punished memories survived. Whispers carried stories forward. Secret drawings mimicked destroyed statues. Children passed down forbidden names as bedtime stories. The state could delete a record, but not always the feeling it left behind. Damnatio memoriae wasn't about forgetting. It was about forcing everyone to pretend they had. And in that silence, Rome revealed its deepest fear, that the dead might still speak. Visual guide suggestions. Slow zoom on a statue with the face violently chiseled out. A hand etching curses onto a lead tablet by candlelight. A child staring at a ruined family portrait with a blank space. Final image. Geta's name partially erased from a marble plaque. The chisel still visible. Up next in Part 10. When executions became banquets of cruelty inside the twisted feasts of Rome's most deranged emperors. Imagine being invited to a royal banquet, golden goblets, roasted game, music floating in the air. Now imagine the first course is a human head. Welcome to the darkest feasts of ancient Rome, where dinner wasn't just food. It was punishment, theater, and asterisk power on display. And no one used the table as a weapon quite like Rome's most deranged emperors. Let's start with Elagabalus asterisk. The teenage emperor infamous for transforming banquets into psychological torture chambers. His parties weren't just lavish, they were death traps in disguise. At one such gathering, guests arrived to find the floor covered in rose petals, charming at first, but as the night wore on, more petals fell from the ceiling, dropped from hidden compartments. What began as perfume turned into asterisk suffocation. The petals piled knee-deep. A few guests died, literally smothered by flowers, as servants laughed and musicians played on. Elagabalus also enjoyed serving asterisk food carved into shapes of human body parts asterisk, tongues of oxen, spines of fish arranged like skeletons. Once, he fed guests fake meat made of painted wood and waited until the third course to reveal the joke. Those who spat it out, thrown to the guards. He had a particular taste for asterisk surprise cruelty. One noble was offered a throne at a private dinner. When he sat down, the seat collapsed, plunging him into a pit filled with wild animals. Elagabalus merely sipped his wine and applauded. But he was just an overture. The true symphony of banquet horror came from asterisk Emperor Domitian. He once hosted a feast in a pitch-black room where every servant was asterisk dressed as a corpse, complete with white powder and sunken eyes. The walls were painted black. The table was black. The food was black. Every guest sat in silence as Domitian declared, "You are dead men dining with the dead." Some vomited. Others wept. No one slept for days. Domitian's aim wasn't entertainment. It was domination. He wanted his guests to feel like they'd crossed into the underworld, and that he controlled who returned. And then there was asterisk Commodus asterisk, the gladiator emperor, who turned feasts into asterisk execution stages. He once invited senators to a feast where the main event was a asterisk mock gladiator match. The twist? The mock part vanished when Commodus entered the ring in full armor and asterisk killed a man in front of the guests asterisk, a slave accused of stealing fruit. The dessert course was served while blood soaked the sand. Some of Rome's culinary cruelty was quieter, but no less chilling. At certain elite dinners, guests of low status were given asterisk meals made to look like delicacies asterisk but which were actually scraps. Dyed bread, wax grapes, wine mixed with vinegar. Meanwhile, nobles dined on flamingo tongues, honey-roasted dormice, and jellyfish marinated in saffron. This was about asterisk social humiliation, served course by course. And for those out of favor, the invitation to a banquet wasn't a gift, it was a warning. Nero famously used dinner parties as traps. One senator, suspected of treason, was lavished with wine and praise, then executed that night in the garden as music played. Nero explained to the stunned guests, "I did not want him to die hungry." Food became a weapon, a performance. In Roman elite culture, banquets were a test of loyalty and fear, where no bite was ever truly safe. Even seating arrangements had meaning. The most honored position could also be the most dangerous, closest to the emperor's blade. Slaves who dropped a dish were sometimes asterisk whipped in front of the entire gathering, their screams drowned by the lyre. At the height of madness, feasts were used for asterisk ritual humiliation. One disgraced general was invited to a reconciliation banquet by Caligula. He was served asterisk a feast of coal and bones, symbolizing his burned honor. The wine? His own confiscated blood, diluted with vinegar. He was told to drink if he wished to be forgiven. He did. He wasn't. And yet, these feasts weren't secret horrors, they were known, whispered about, enshrined in rumor. Because in Rome, cruelty wasn't something to hide. It was power. It was art. It was spectacle. Visual guide suggestions. Candles flickering across a black painted banquet hall filled with motionless corpse-like servants. A noble sinking into a flower-filled pit. Mouth agape. Nero calmly dining while a man is dragged from the table. Final image. A golden goblet filled not with wine, but something darker. Still. And thick. Coming in part 11. When Rome exported its punishments abroad. The terrifying reach of Roman justice in the provinces. Imagine living thousands of miles from Rome. You've never seen the Colosseum. Never heard Latin spoken fluently. Yet one morning, Roman soldiers arrive in your village, and by sundown, you're hanging on a cross. This was the reach of Roman justice. It didn't stop at the city's gates. It bled into every province, every conquered land. And if Rome's citizens thought punishment was cruel, the provinces saw something far worse. Let's start in Britannia, where local druids once held sacred groves and governed by tribal law. When Rome invaded, the druids weren't just defeated, they were obliterated. The Emperor Claudius sent a message. Your gods are dead. Your laws are gone. Now comes ours. Roman legions burned their sacred oak forests, executed priests en masse, and publicly desecrated altars. Captured chieftains were paraded naked through the streets of Londinium before being sacrificed in Roman-style executions. Their deaths turned into theater for the newly civilized Britons. In Judea, rebellion was met with legendary brutality. After the Jewish revolt of 66 CE, General Titus laid siege to Jerusalem. What followed wasn't war, it was annihilation. Starvation turned families into cannibals. One account tells of a mother who roasted her own child, offering it to Roman scouts as a peace meal. When the city fell, 500 prisoners a day were crucified outside the walls, so many that there was no more room for the crosses. According to Josephus, Rome wasn't just punishing rebellion. It was breaking memory, teaching generations to never try again. And in North Africa, Rome faced the Berber tribes, fiercely independent and deeply spiritual. These desert dwellers resisted taxation and Roman culture. In response, governors like Gaius Suetonius Paulinus launched scorched earth campaigns destroying water sources, salting the fields, and forcing entire villages to migrate or die. Captured warriors were subjected to a punishment known as the burning yoke, two flaming spears planted in the sand, forcing prisoners to walk through while lashed, blistered, and blinded by smoke. Those who survived were branded on the face, forever marked as enemies of the empire. In Germania, Rome used fear to keep its foothold. The forests were thick, the tribes unpredictable, so Roman punishment was designed to linger in the mind. Captured rebels were buried alive beneath Roman roads their bodies turned into literal foundations of empire. Travelers would unknowingly walk over the dead. Rome's message pressed into the earth. We build on your failure, But perhaps the most terrifying punishments came not from generals, but from local governors trying to impress Rome. In Egypt, one ambitious prefect named Aelius Isidorus invented a new method of execution for tax resistors. He would tie victims to the prow of Nile ships, facing forward, their eyes eaten by sun and birds during long trade voyages. Survivors often went mad, but Rome approved. Tax revenue increased 22% the following year. Even Roman citizens weren't safe if they lived in the provinces. In Gaul, a corrupt governor once held public trials where guilty verdicts were pre-written. The accused had their tongues cut out before the sentence was read. When Rome heard of it, they didn't stop him, they promoted him. Why? Because his province had fewer riots. And then there were the invisible punishments exile, land confiscation, name erasure. But in the provinces, exile didn't mean relocation. It meant being left in the wilderness, outside city walls, branded and forbidden from seeking shelter. In one case, exiled traders in Hispania were hunted by locals for sport, because the brand made them imperial property. One chilling story from Syria speaks volumes. A young poet named Leontius wrote a satire mocking a Roman magistrate. He was arrested and sentenced to ***, tongueless exile, his tongue torn out, and his hands broken so he couldn't write again. Before being cast into the desert, a soldier whispered, "Rome loves poets," until they rhymed too loud. Rome didn't just conquer land. It conquered behavior. It taught people to flinch before speaking, to bow before questioning. The provinces became echo chambers of fear, held in place not by armies but by the memory of punishment. Visual guide suggestions. Slow fade from a peaceful tribal village to Roman standards rising over smoking ruins. A map of the Roman Empire glowing with hotspots of rebellion and punishment. Eyes of a man tied to a Nile ship, his face blistered by wind and sun. Final image. A Roman road stretching into the horizon, underneath. Skeletons buried in the dirt. Next up in Part 12. The twisted legacy of Roman punishment, how echoes of it still shape our laws, prisons, and executions today. What if I told you that modern justice *, your courtroom, your jail, your death penalty, still carries the fingerprints of ancient Rome? Rome is long gone, but its * punishments never really died. They just evolved, hidden behind laws, rituals, and robes. The echoes of whips and crosses still ring in every gavel strike. Start with the * prison system. Ancient Rome didn't build prisons to * hold criminals long-term. They were places of * waiting * for trial or execution. The real punishment came later: death, exile, or humiliation. Today, many prisons function similarly. Overcrowded jails are filled with people awaiting trial, not yet convicted. The punishment has begun before guilt is proven *, a chilling echo of Rome's carcer, where light rarely reached and disease was part of the sentence. Execution methods? You'd be surprised how many have roots in Roman blood. The * guillotine * wasn't Roman, but the public execution is spectacle? All Rome. Crowds gathered in amphitheaters to watch men die. The executioner was a performer. Criminals were made examples, torn by beasts, burned alive, or crucified for all to see. The modern notion of * capital punishment as deterrent * comes straight from this bloody theater. Even today, in the few countries where execution still happens, it's often televised, or reported in lurid detail. The stage has changed, but the message is the same. Obey, or watch what happens. Now think about * branding. In Rome, criminals could be marked with hot iron letters on their forehead or arms. F for * fugitive. C for * convict. Branded for life. No chance at redemption. Sound familiar? Today, we brand people too, just not with fire. A criminal record, a registry, a digital scar. In some places, felons can't vote, can't live in certain areas, can't get jobs. The punishment continues long after the sentence ends. Rome would have nodded in approval. And what about * exile? Romans loved exile. It was cheaper than execution, and just as effective in destroying a life. Banish someone from their homeland, strip them of name and rights, and watch them fade. Modern society has its own exile, deportation, social shaming, blacklisting, cancel culture, digital exile. Push someone to the edge of public life, and they vanish without needing a noose. Even * trial rituals * carry Roman DNA. The raised platform for judges? Roman. The toga-like robes? Roman. The notion that justice must appear solemn, even theatrical? Roman. In fact, the phrase, innocent until proven guilty. Roman too. * A incumbit probatio qui dicit, non qui negat. The burden of proof lies with the accuser. And yet, in practice, modern systems often ignore it, just like the Romans did when it suited them. Rome also invented the idea of * collective punishment *, where entire families suffered for one person's crime. Today, it lives on subtly. A parent's crime can ruin their children's futures. A scandal can destroy a whole family name. Insurance dropped, jobs lost, doors closed. The ancient concept persists. Your blood is your fate. Let's not forget the asterisk spectacle of shame. In Rome, disgraced nobles were paraded through streets, spat on, mocked. In modern life, trial by media, the perp walk, viral mugshots, online harassment, a digital coliseum with millions of anonymous spectators. We don't need lions anymore. We have Twitter. Even asterisk legal torture asterisk still hides in the shadows. While banned on paper, enhanced interrogation techniques still echo ancient ideas of asterisk pain as truth. Romans believed torture could extract confessions, especially from slaves. Modern governments, in moments of panic, sometimes reach for the same old tools, only rebranded. And the death penalty? Only a handful of modern nations still use it. But where it survives, it's clothed in civility, lethal injection instead of crucifixion. But both share the same origin, state-sanctioned death, often publicized, meant to teach a lesson. Rome killed to maintain order. So do we. But here's the final twist. While we inherited many of Rome's punishments, we asterisk forgot their endings. In Rome, after punishment, the slate could be wiped clean. A branded slave might earn freedom. A disgraced general could be restored. Even damnatio memoriae could be reversed by a future emperor. Today, we rarely offer the same mercy. So the next time you pass a courtroom, watch a true crime documentary, or scroll through a scandal online, ask yourself, how Roman are we, really? And if Rome's greatest invention wasn't the Colosseum, but the asterisk performance of punishment that still lives in our bones. Visual guide suggestions. Cross-dissolve from Roman branding iron to a modern criminal record. Courtroom scene where a judge's robe subtly mirrors a Roman toga. Perp walk cut with Roman shame parades. Final image. A Colosseum fading into a prison yard. Same shadows, same screams. This concludes the 12-part series on asterisk, the most bizarre punishments from ancient Rome and more. But history never ends, it just waits to be rediscovered. If you want a sequel, you know what to do. Like, comment, and ask for more dark chapters from the forgotten pages of time.